Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the vBrownBag webinar. Tonight, I am excited to present to you Reilly. We're going to be doing a continuation of the Python for DevOps series, talking with Python developers and learning how to level up our skills. As I said, tonight we're going to be talking to Reilly Chase. He is going to be presenting how he started a VPN service using WordPress, Python scripts, and Vultr. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Oh, so much prettier. There we go. But first, let's get in on the conversation. If you at vBrownBag or hashtag vBrownBag on Twitter, I will be paying attention and listening to the tweets. If you want to pose us with questions there or within the Q&A session inside of the webinar chat forum, I will be fielding both of those questions for Reilly. So once again, we have Reilly Chase. He is at _rchase_. Notice those are not dunderscores. That's a Python joke because he's very not immutable. My name is Chris Williams. I make really, really bad jokes, and I'm at Mistwire. So without further ado, Reilly, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me make you presenter, and then I can stop making really bad jokes. All right.
All right, let me know when you can you see my screen?
No more dirty IP addresses.
So this is Ghostified, and it's powered by Python, and there's a lot of kind of DevOps stuff that I thought would be relevant to this talk because it's all about creating servers with code and installing things on servers and automating the workflow of that. So basically, the way that it works is if you've ever used a VPN before, like private internet access or one of the other popular ones, you're sharing an open VPN server with people. So you're sharing bandwidth and you're sharing the IP address and stuff. And so my idea was if everyone could have their own server, it'd be a lot faster. And by not sharing the IP address, the no dirty IP address thing comes from when I was using it, I would go to websites sometimes with my private internet access VPN and get blocked because someone had done something bad with that IP address and got themselves blocked from a popular website or whatever. So with this, you get your own IP address and everything. So going into the Python code, this is what it looks like. I'm not really sure where to start with it.
Well, why don't we start with the imports? Or what does an import do, Reilly?
So I have a lot of libraries that I'm using. An import is where you're importing someone else's code or your own code. Like in this case, this from config import star, I'm actually importing my own Python file, which is not here because I didn't want to accidentally click on it, so I deleted it out of my folder for this presentation. But that's where I have all my passwords at. So that allows me to flip through here and show you guys stuff without exposing my passwords. Like right here where it says db password, it's pulling from this config file. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Reilly, real quick, is your audio a little bit? Your audio is a little bit wonky. It's coming in a little bit choppy.
You know what? Let me call in from the phone instead, so that we can get rid of any.
Okay,
wireless issue.
You switched mics. Previously, the mic was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a nice microphone, but it's not showing up in the connection here. Let me see if I can do the dial in.
Okay, sure. While we're waiting, I'll continue to hum the theme to Jeopardy. No, never mind. I won't do that.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I called in on my phone. Yeah, I had some issues connecting. Of course, Windows decided to do updates right before the meeting started, so sorry about that.
Awesome.
But
No worries.
but yeah, so we were talking about the Python script. So the way that I'll kind of give you the overview of how the website works. I've only been programming for a couple of years, and like when I made this, it was only a few months ago, but I didn't feel like confident enough at programming to make the whole website and user registration and payment and all that stuff. So I actually used WordPress WordPress and plugins. So when someone goes to purchase, it actually is all being processed by the WordPress website and then Stripe payment gateway plugin. So when they go to checkout, they put in their credit card and everything, and then it creates a row in a database. And then I have the Python script that runs on a cron job. So every 1 minute, the Python script runs automatically and checks to see if anyone signed up. And then if they did, it builds them a VPN server and installs OpenVPN onto the server. And then this dashboard I made I wrote this in PHP as a custom WordPress page. So from here, the user can select which provider they want to have the server installed on, which I haven't finished writing that feature yet. But the main feature is they can select which location they want, and then they can rebuild the server. And all they have to do is click download file to get connected to the VPN using an OpenVPN client.
Nice.
And then I was gonna demonstrate that as well on my like getting connected to the VPN. I was gonna demonstrate that on my virtual machine, but that's what crashed my computer earlier when I opened this up.
Because the name is Crasher, so that makes perfect sense. See, you're just taunting the demo gods with a name like that.
Yeah, it's terrible. So there's a lot of functions in here. The main script runs. This is the main.py. So this is what runs every minute. And so when this runs, it does a query to the database. So if you look here, I have a variable that's called active subscriptions, and it does a query to the database to find the table WP, so WordPress, Easy Digital Downloads, subscription IDs. So what it's doing basically is it's looking in the table to find which servers are active, and then it's actually been a while since I looked at this. It's confusing, but it basically.
Well, hold on. Can you scroll up for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the session query it returns a list, and then you're taking the list and putting that into the variable active servers, and then you're iterating through the active servers using a for loop.
Correct. So for server and active servers, if server 1 pass, else servers to destroy append. So it's creating a list of servers to destroy. So it says if subscription, I got to read my own comments. It's been a while since I looked at this. So if subscription exists for the server, skip it. Else append it to the server to destroy list. And I can't remember why that is.
I'm the same way with my code.
Huh?
I'm the same way with my code. I have to remember what I was doing. Like, why did I do that?
I was gonna get to the part where it builds the servers instead of destroying the servers. So
okay.
This is when someone is canceling, it's making a list of servers to destroy, and then it will. This is a thread, so for each server that needs to destroy, it spawns a new thread. That way, otherwise, if I hadn't used threading, it would get bogged down. Like creating one server at a time. It takes like 5 or 10 minutes to create a server, install OpenVPN, and like do all the things it has to do. So like if I wasn't using threading, it could take a long time to do that. versus with threading, it does it all at the same time. So I'm actually logging into the database right now to show some of the rows here. So this is the admin, and I'm going to be careful in here to not expose any customer information, but basically I created these pages, like this API page and the download page, and this is like the user control panel page. And then you can see these are where I wrote the PHP for that. So when you're looking at the user dashboard, that's PHP that is pretty simple. Like it just retrieves the row from the database and shows like which server you have that logged into.
Mm-hmm.
So oh wait, no, it was in Chrome that I was logged in. So like this is just retrieving the server row, and the server row in the database is this. So and this is created by Python. So really without this, so it starts off when someone signs up, right? So you sign up to buy a server. WordPress creates a row in this table, WP EDD subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And EDD is Easy Digital Downloads. They create a plugin that has the Stripe integration to accept the payment and stuff. So when someone signs up, all that WordPress does is create a row right here with the customer ID, the period, so like monthly, the amount, so $19, recurring $19, and then the product ID is like the ID of which product they purchased, so the VPN product. And so what my program does is it's, let's go back to that Python. So when someone's purchased, they will have this row created, but they won't have a server row created here.
Mm-hmm.
Because until that Python script runs for the first time, they won't have a server created because the Python script creates the server, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Python knows when it needs to create a server, is because it compares the servers table to the subscriptions table, and then it finds out, oh, there's a subscription that doesn't have a server, I need to build it. So I'll show you what that code actually looks like in here. It would be under main.py. So I create a list right here, servers to create equals list. And then let's find out where where it appends to that list. So here it is. So for subscription in active subscriptions, and active subscriptions is this. So session.query. So this is a SQL query. It's a little bit abstracted. Have you ever worked with the ORM before? Do you know what an ORM is?
I do not know.
Okay, so and I'm sure some of the listeners probably haven't heard of an ORM either. So an ORM is like, have you written SQL before? Like select star from database where name equals this or something, you know?
Yeah, I've done that.
Have you written? Okay, so an ORM, it's I think hopefully I get this right, object relational management or something like that, but basically it turns database things into Python objects. So like it makes it easier to do queries like this, but I could have just as easily written select star from subscriptions where, you know what I mean? So like this is just a way of writing it differently, but it's the same thing. It converts back to a SQL. So anyways, the point is that this is grabbing all the active subscriptions. So session query subscription comma server. So it's joining the server table with the subscription table, and then it's filtering by subscription status is active. So so where there is an active subscription and a server, that's what it's returning. I think. So then for each subscription, okay, now this makes sense. So for each subscription in the active subscriptions, and you remember the active subscriptions is a server joined with a server joined with the subscription table.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what this is saying is if you find that the subscription has both a server and a subscription, so if it has a server and a subscription, skip it, meaning these are the ones that are already created. So these ones are getting skipped. Otherwise, if it's not created, then it's saying add it to the list servers to create, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's how complicated way of how we figure out which servers need to be created. So then let's go to is it cool if I just walk through how it creates a server? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
This is your presentation. Do with it what you want.
All right. So it's going to create the server. This is a list of servers that need to be created. So let's see where else it mentions that. So the next time it mentions servers to create is right here, actually. So these are functions. So these aren't actually running until they get called. So they're just sitting there. So down here, results. So this is where I start spawning threads. So one thread for each server to create. So like I said, instead of creating one server at a time, which could take, so say we have 3 people signed up at the same time, it would take like, if each server takes 5 minutes, it would be 15 minutes before that third person got their server ready. So rather than doing that, I'm using threading. So it spawns 3 new threads and they each build a server at the same time. So that third person will get their server 5 minutes later, and so will the first person. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yep.
So so this is spawning a thread, and it's putting in the servers to create as the input to thread servers to create, which is a function. So when it says self right here, it's passing in that row that we were talking about, which is the subscription row. So it's passing this data right here to thread servers to create, and thread servers to create is going to create a server. So it says the main function that's going on here is it's getting the username and email address out of the user's table, and then it is creating a new server object, and then it is creating that server right here. So this is the most important part of this function, is new server.create. And then if we go to models.py, this is where all that ORM stuff is. So this is how the ORM connects to the database. So these match up to the database column. So like if you're looking at recurring amount right here, that translates to recurring amount right here. So it's a connection between the ORM, just a connection between the database and Python without having to do the querying. So you have to define that stuff here. But anyway, so when it goes to create the server, where were we? Let's see, main.py, thread servers to create. When it goes to new server.create, so let's go look for the create function here. All the way down here, I'm pretty sure. Here it is. So define create. So when I'm saying server.create, this is what's happening, and you can see it's pretty short. So for the entire server create function, all it is like, what is this, 20 lines of code? But it is these 20 lines of code are calling a bunch of other functions that I wrote. So, right. But it's nice because now I can just tell you what it's doing without having to read line by line of every single thing that's going on. So when it says the create function gets run, and then it's creating a Cloudflare DNS record for it. So it's that function is calling. So Cloudflare is where I have the domain DNS hosted. So it creates an A record, like my server is G04. So it creates an A record for G04.Ghostified.net and points it to the IP address. And actually, I skipped a step, self.create VPS. So first it creates a VPS on Vultr. once that VPS, it keeps on getting the status of it until it's done installing. And then once it's done installing, it prints VPS setup complete, and then it creates that Cloudflare DNS record with the IP address of the server.
Right.
And then as long as that DNS record comes back and it was successfully created, it'll print, we created the DNS record successfully. And this is just printing stuff for me to debug. It's not gonna show to the users or anything like that.
Right.
So then it'll install OpenVPN. It'll download the OVPN file, which is the file that the user will need to connect to his server. And basically when it says get OVPN file, it means it's downloading it from the server that was just created, and it saves it on DigitalOcean Spaces. And then it tars, so it basically zips up the entire server configuration directories and saves them to DigitalOcean Spaces. And then that's pretty much it. It sends an email saying, thanks for using the Ghostified. Your VPS has finished. Log in to find your OVPN file and connect your devices. And then this is the function that sends that email. So that's the whole whole way that it gets created.
So each one of those self._, that's another defined function elsewhere in the Python script as well, yes?
Yeah, so these are all custom little functions that I wrote. So if you go and look at one of them, like create VPS, you can find it right here. And there's a little variable being passed that's new, because there's different types of creating a VPS. You could be rebuilding one, or creating a new one, or there's different types, but all that does is call this URL right here to Vultr and do server/create, and then it passes it what host name it wants and location and all that stuff, and that's how it gets created. It's just like one line, really.
Wow. So when you were creating this Python script, when you were trying to put this whole thing together, did you have an overarching idea of how you wanted all the puzzle pieces to fit together? Did you use a mind map to like assemble it? How did you envision this, and how did you first, like when you first started that first main.py, how did you like put it all together?
So I actually just wrote it out on paper, and I knew what I wanted to create, which is I wanted to create a better VPN service that there's kind of a backstory to it. Like, I was using a VPN every day for a while, and I was getting annoyed with how slow it was. So I started using VPS instead, and I found out it was way faster. But I'm scrolling back in time on Twitter to show you like some of my early drawings of like the dashboard and like stuff like that. But it was really just, I do a lot of like drawing on paper, and like here's like my first drawing that I posted back in November, and then I made it look like, so like this is what I wanted it to look like, and then here's what it actually looked like. Like, it's pretty similar.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I also wrote a bunch of blog posts about, I really put a lot of thought into making it modular like this, because something that's funny is this is actually my second software like project that I started, and the first one I made was Ghostified, and it's the same thing. It's the same idea where I used WordPress as the front end, and then Python builds the servers and does all the stuff in the back end, and WordPress is just used for people to sign up. And the reason I'm not doing a presentation today on how I built Ghostified is because the code that I wrote, it did not look nice and clean with functions and everything. It was literally several thousand lines of code sequentially with no functions or classes, raw SQL queries, no ORM. So to this day, I haven't rewritten it yet. It's on my to-do list because it still works. But whenever something doesn't work, I have to dig through like a needle in a haystack to like find out like what's wrong with it, So I was very like deliberate about like making things very modular, so you can see each function does something very small and specific,
Right.
And then if I have a problem, like if the VPS is not getting created properly, I just have to look at, what is this, 30 lines of code? I can figure that out. But
Right.
looking at several thousand lines of code, it's like, oh my God.
You don't know where it breaks.
Yeah. So,
I think the term for that is spaghetti code. Is that right?
It's spaghetti code. And now I'm working on my third project, and I have to say, like, each time I've gotten like significantly better at programming each time that I do this.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is my third one that I'm doing, and I've gotten off of WordPress now. I'm using PHP Laravel, and I love it. I really like it so much better. But I'm trying to make another little software thing, and this time I'm gonna write the code even better, I'm sure. Then because each time you do it, you just learn, get better at it. So
sure, right. So
but yeah.
In terms of, I mean, this is fantastic stuff. This is exactly the kinds of things that I wanted to get when we were doing this. Do you, like, when you first got into it, you said that you've been programming for a couple of years now. Where did you start? How did you go from a couple of years ago to now writing multiple websites? Starting a good business for yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, I always like talking about like helping people like with that how to get started phase. So when I got started a few years ago, I think it was 2015 is when I wrote my first Python program that actually did something other than like multiplication or like something like out of a tutorial book. Like
okay.
I actually wrote a program that did something. And I think it was like 2 years before that I had been reading, watching podcasts like this. I'd been reading books on programming, and it just didn't click. And I think it was like at least 2 years of just like reading and thinking that by reading I was learning. But what I realized is that I really didn't start learning until I wrote that first program. And it's hard for people to pick their first program, I think. But to give you an example of what my first program was, it was a command line Python program that interacted with a game server over a TCP socket.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like this old game server. It exposed a TCP socket where you could connect and send ASCII back and forth. So you ever use like Telnet, you could like log into like a Telnet kind of interface. And I wanted to automate like sending messages on this chat server and like doing stuff like that. So like one of my first programs too was like a brute forcer. Like it was really simple. It'd be like you go to connect to the TCP socket and you receive the login prompt, and then you send a username, and then it comes back with the password prompt, and you send the password, and then if login equals failed, continue, else like dump that to account hacked.txt or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of my first programs was like a little hacking brute force or whatever. So I think finding your first program and like I think that's like the most important thing is like to start making something that you think is interesting, and stay away from like the tutorials that are not interesting, like how to do a to-do list app or like something that is like boring. Like try to find something that automates something that you find actually interesting.
Nice, very cool. You end up rewinding your frame, iterate through each improvement. No. So a comment from Graham, you'll end up rewriting your first program 2 or 3 times as you iterate through improvements. And one question from George, why not use a queue instead of a 1-minute cron job to create/destroy servers?
Yeah. Great question. All right. So there's a great queuing library for Python called Celery. And to be honest, I'm not a very good programmer. Like I try to learn as much as I can, but at the end of the day, I try to just make things work. But I would like to learn how to use the queuing program. It's something I was actually evaluating once again, making my third website here, where it's going to be another server hosting website. And I was evaluating whether I should use Celery or not. And I started going down that path again. And I just still felt a little bit overwhelmed by it. And this just works. So yeah, it's just I'm just not very good at programming.
So you say that, but you just gave the best argument on the entire planet for doing something. This works. You know, it's a there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways to skin things. There's a lot of different modules to learn. There's a lot of different ways that you can do things. But if this scales for your needs and this is working now, that's a fantastic reason why you're not using queuing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
being
I mean,
said,
no
it's always
knock
good to learn
against it.
too.
Something that's funny that I've learned is that when I didn't know how to do, like, you just have to, when you first start programming, you just have to do whatever you can do and not worry about whether it's the right way. Like, as long as it gets the job done, it's okay. I mean, there's security you have to consider as well. There's a right and wrong way to do security, but I don't think there's a right or wrong way to accomplish something as long as it works for you. But as I've progressed in programming, it's actually been getting easier, and I've been writing things better, which is good. But sometimes doing things the easy way, it can come back to get you, like I said with the spaghetti code and stuff.
Right. So
But you shouldn't worry about that at first.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the first thing you want to do is actually like just write something, get in there, do a project, and get going on it. So
Yeah.
in terms of like projects and research and stuff like that, what kinds of resources have you used and do you use now? I mean, other than Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange, do you have anything that like you always hit that you're when you're chewing on something or when you're trying to learn something?
Yeah. So like early on, like I said, I did a lot of like reading about programming, and I really learned that programming is one of those things that you can't learn just by reading. You have to be doing it, and it's like if you were to read about how to become a better writer, I think like you have to. There's certain things that you can't learn by not doing them. You know what I mean? Like so with programming, the way that it works, and I always wondered how people. I want to talk about like a common myth or confusion that I had when I first started programming was when you see me talking right now about how this function does that and this does that, and it seems overwhelming, just think that like I didn't sit down and open up this text editor and just start typing out all these thousands of lines of code. The way that I learned to program is I know what I want to do. Like I know I want to create a VPS, and I don't just start typing out this is how to create a VPS. Like I Google like how to create a VPS on Vultr API, and then here comes the API documentation on Vultr, and then I search for create, and then I start reading. This is where I start reading is that's not the right function, but I start reading their documentation here, and a lot of Stack Overflow, copy and pasting for sure, and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of just reading the documentation and knowing what you want to do, and just figuring out how other people have already done something similar, and breaking what you want to do into smaller steps. So instead of Googling, how do I create a VPN service? I Google, how do I create a VPS? How do I install the VPN? How do I get the VPN out of the VPN? So it's like breaking into smaller steps that you could find that other people have worked on before, I think.
Excellent advice. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to drill into or anything else that you want to talk about? I mean, this has all been fantastic. I'm not saying that talk more. I'm just I'm very this is fantastic stuff. So this is great.
I really like the DevOps side of programming, and Python's the best language, and now is the best time to learn. I think that anyone who's listening, that no matter what you do at work, I think that adding programming to almost any job is becoming like super useful. And it's not just like useful like, oh, you're gonna make more money. It's like it's useful like this is gonna like this is gonna make your life easier. You're gonna get your work done faster. Like there's so much stuff I started doing at my job because I knew how to program, and other people that I work with didn't. That I'll give an example, because I know that I think some of the people that follow you are probably network engineers who are trying to learn to program. So like I was on a contract for like a big company, and they had to do an upgrade for like 100 like Cisco switches. And so they gave me this assignment. They're like, hey, our senior engineer, he's going to do the actual upgrades, but like as the more junior engineer, we want you to we want you to just download the firmware image onto each Cisco switch and prep the image. And there's like other steps involved. Like sometimes like a switch would not have enough memory, so like I'd have to delete some stuff off of it before I could like get the file onto it. And like there's a couple different types of switches, so they had different types of firmware that need to be loaded onto them. Well, they gave me a couple of weeks to do it, and I came back the next day. I was like, it's done. They're like, how the hell did you do it? Well, I wrote a program, and I basically just wrote a program, and I made it multi-threaded, so it did it all at one time, and it went through a series of checks. It took me like a day to write it, and it would go through and check which type of switch it is, clear off some of the old firmware that was on the switch, download the correct switch image, and then it would check it to make sure that it downloaded correctly, prep it for the next guy, and it was all automated. So like I think stuff like that is really cool. And I think we're just going to see more and more of that because it's becoming a lot easier to do stuff like that because of the libraries that are out there, like NetMiko. I don't know if you what's the guy's name? Kirk Byers, I think, that made NetMiko. NetMiko is a Python library specifically for SSHing into Cisco switches and other types of command lines like that, network command lines.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the name of that again?
NetMiko. Paramiko is like the standard library for like SSHing into Linux servers and stuff.
Okay.
But this guy who does, I think his name's Kirk Byers, he does Python for network engineers, and he has his own business where he does courses and stuff like that. And but he wrote the library in Python that makes it easier to interact with Cisco command line stuff.
NetMiko, Python
and other,
for network engineers. Nice.
He says regularly tested, like it's Cisco, Juniper, HP. So for network equipment, he wrote a library that makes it really easy to interact with those type of command lines and stuff. So I used his library to write this program, and I open sourced it too. Cisco switch upgrade or something. Reilly Chase GitHub Cisco switch upgrade. Let's see, I'll pull it up real quick. But I think that's one of the more fun things I did at work. And I really think after I did that, the guy who was the manager there was like really impressed and everything. So then he, on a team of network engineers, like 10 network engineers, I was the only one that knew how to program. And then, but the manager, he also knew how to program. So we started teaming up and like automating all this stuff. And then he wanted to, it was a big company, so he wanted to report to like the executives and tell them more information, like statistical information about the network. So we ended up writing these programs together that would like log into every single switch, like hundreds of switches in this global network, and like count the switch ports that were being used and like do all these statistics and stuff. It was pretty fun.
Nice, very fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I have it on my GitHub where I did that. This is where it logs into each switch, and it's checking like if model equals this and if model equals that, and then it like downloads the Cisco firmware from a FTP server that's on the network. And
cool. I'll put all of the I'll put this link in the show notes on YouTube.
But yeah, getting started is the hardest part, and it really does get easier and easier. And once you've been doing it for a few years, if you you start off just writing programs, then you start learning, like just try and do a basic program, and then start learning about. Don't go into how to learn the whole language at once. Like don't try and learn classes and like I still don't even know how to use a wrapper. Like there's all kinds of different advanced things in the language that you don't ever really need to use. They just make your life easier if you know how to use them. So I would say like my advice too is like don't try to learn every single advanced topic. Like polymorphing in classes and all these things, even functions. You don't even need functions. You can just write sequential programs to do one thing at a time. But yeah, just get started, and then the advanced stuff starts to make more sense the longer you've been doing it, because after a while you realize that the more advanced stuff makes your life easier, but at first it's just too overwhelming. So that's my advice to you, is like just do what you can at first, and the more advanced stuff will make sense once you've been doing it for a while. And there's, like I said, there's stuff that I don't, I've been doing it for years. There's stuff I've never used. I've never written a wrapper in any of my programs or like used polymorphism or anything like that.
Very cool. Awesome. That's excellent advice. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Well, we're coming up onto the to the end of the time. Let me do a quick check of the Twitters. Well, before I go there, have you talked about everything that you wanted to talk about, Reilly, or is there more stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I was just pretty much just winging it, just showing you guys like this thing, and
You're not supposed to say that out loud when you're being recorded. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Cool. All right. Let's see. Graham has said many things. We want to learn more. NetMiko. Oh, Napalm. He's talking about Napalm as well.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've never used Napalm.
There's a lot of folks saying thank you very much and fantastic information. But no specific questions other than the queuing thing. Can you talk a little bit about that queuing thing? What was that about?
Yeah, so
cron versus queuing.
Let's see, I've never used Celery before, so I can't talk about it very much because I don't know anything about it. But basically, from what I understand, you can use it to schedule tasks. So I shouldn't talk about it because I don't actually know.
Okay.
But
right.
but
so the test for everybody is Google Celery.
Yeah. If there is a way, so the only problem with the cron job is well, there's some problems with it, but like it runs every minute. So say, someone could have to wait up to a minute before it even starts running. That's one problem. And then another problem is like if it hits an error, it'll sometimes get stuck. So I'll have to go in and restart the script. That happens to me on Ghostified a lot. But yeah, it's something I should learn more about.
as we all should. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, Mr. Reilly Chase, thank you very much. This was very enlightening. I'll put if there's any additional links that you want me to put into the video when we post it, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll put your GitHub repo in there and the additional resources. Thanks. Great presentation. Nice to hear how Reilly was able to grow his skills. Thanks very much. Yay, go team. All right. Lots of kudos and thank yous and no additional questions. So I will wrap it up from my side.
Cool. If anyone has any questions that come up later, I love helping people get started programming and beginners and everything. So hit me up on Twitter at _rchase_, and I'll be happy to help you get started too.
Oh, see, now you've opened the floodgates. Everybody's going to come hit you up now.
I've been live streaming while I'm programming, so I'm making this new thing called Ghostified, and it's going to be similar, but instead of WordPress, I'm going to be using Laravel PHP as the thing that takes the payments and stuff. But I'm still going to use Python as the backend that creates the servers and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually making that live. I've been streaming on Twitch or whatever and Twitter and stuff, so you can come watch me code and hang out too.
Give me the link for your Twitch stream, and I'll put that into the YouTube notes as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's fun because what's funny is like there's a few different types of people that watch it, and sometimes there'll be people who are new and they ask questions, and I'll help them get started, and then other times there'll be people who are much more advanced than me that are giving me tips like, hey, you should try doing it this way, or this way would be quicker. And yeah, it's been pretty cool streaming.
Really?
Fun.
So the only people that I've heard of that are doing the Twitch live coding streams have been the technical evangelists over at AWS. Are there a lot of people doing that Twitch coding?
Yeah, there's some people like I'm part of like kind of the startup community because I'm doing my own full-time startup thing now. As of January, I'm full-time on Ghostified. It's my income and everything, and I lost my job and stuff. But yeah, there's a whole group of people like that I'm trying to think. There's like a startup streamers, ship streams. That's what it's called, ship streams. There's a whole group of people that if I can spell properly, I could show you this website, shipstreams.com. It's like a collection of people who are making stuff and doing it live, programming.
Cool. Shipstreams.com.
Yeah, it's a new thing. This has just started in like October, and it kind of got kicked off because they did like I'm trying to remember, it was like a 24-hour startup challenge, and it was like whoever could make the coolest startup in 24 hours won. And so everyone was like competing and streaming it, and then now they spun off this thing. So but yeah, it's fun to watch other people code. I mean, it's not really fun. It's interesting. I mean, it's not something I'm going to sit there and watch for like hours, but
I am going to watch the guy with eating the pizza next to the fireplace. Holy crap. Why would you not watch that guy? That would be interesting. That is so creepy. I'm not watching that. Forget that. That's not going to happen. Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a lot of excellent resources. Okay, I'll get the links from you offline, and then we'll have all that information posted on the YouTube channel as well. That'll be really cool.
Cool.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. This was absolutely fantastic. Great job, Reilly.
Thanks.
All right, everybody else, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again next time.